Skills with Little Bear will dare to take you and your family where no civilized city slicker cares to tread. Join host Little Bear and his frontier friends at heart for this one-of-a-kind how-to series of pioneer skills and discoveries.
Hi, my name is Richard Little Bear Wheeler, your host of Frontier Skills with Little Bear. I'm going to teach you pioneering skills forgotten by America's past. One of those important skills was taking care of wild game. As a matter of fact, I'd like you to join me and Richard Welch at the South Texas Covenant Ranch, and I'm going to show you how to field dress a wild game animal. We're going to insert the knife. Grab a handful of skin here. You want to be very careful not to get into the guts.
Why not?
Well, if you get into that, it could be, the inside of the stomach will be the food, and the rotten matter, and that will spoil the meat. So we're going to make an insert right here into the skin, but being very careful not to cut down into the stomach. You see there's the stomach right there. We're coming down. Now if this were a buck, we would make an elliptical cut around the genitals and get those off. Also, if it were a buck, you see the right here on a buck would be the scent glands. Also make an elliptical cut around those scent glands and get those away, because that will spoil the meat as well.
You mean you actually cut the fur off of it?
Yes, I do. So I'm just holding that skin out.
Like you mean cut like this?
Yes, in a V. That's correct.
Okay.
We're cutting all the way down.
Great.
So we're continuing to cut the skin down here. We're going to cut right through all the way down to the pelvic bone. You see me cutting the roast right there. Right straight down to the pelvic bone. There again, being very careful. And it always helps to have a second hand, as Richard's helping me there. Now then, on this pelvic bone, there's on either side of the center pelvic bone, here's the center, there's a little cartilage area that if you get your serrated edge of your knife in, you're going to be able to, and this is one of the most challenging parts of field dressing, but if you can get it in right on that little cartilage there.
Oh, look at that. Just snaps it right off.
And it'll just cut clean through that pelvic.
Cool.
And then you can take the rear of the tail here and split that. Okay? Now then, we're going to continue to cut around the rectum here. Now that we've got that pelvic bone split, cut down the skin and all the way clear to the tail on either side, and just kind of cut all that away. Okay, that looks good there. Now then, we're going to come back up to the front side. Leave the rear for just a moment. There again, remembering that we've got the stomach that we want to take care of. And you notice that I started my cut right at the base of the sternum. You can see the sternum right there. That part of the deer is called the sternum. You want to begin your cut downward right at the base of the sternum, and then as I come up, I'm going to go right back, and there's a little groove there right on the ribs, and that serrated edge of my knife is going to be able to cut through the cartilage right along the rib cage.
Now how do they know where the sternum is? Do they just start feeling around the body?
That's exactly right. You can feel that little V, that indentation, and that's the sternum. On the deer, that little V is right here.
Okay.
And we just cut right through the middle of that V, right up the cartilage from the rib cage.
So this is almost like the pelvis. It's that small little section you find there.
That's exactly right. Right up the cartilage there. Okay. Now then, we've got the diaphragm. You can see the diaphragm separating the lower intestine from the lungs and the heart and the liver. You want to cut out as far as you can on either side that diaphragm. This is one of the most tricky parts here that gives hunters the most trouble, is that diaphragm there. If you can get that diaphragm cut out, the intestines and the guts will just roll right out. So you cut on that side.
So you're trying to do it without cutting or poking anything.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Now if you poke something, that's not the end of the world, right?
No, it's not. It's not. You're just trying to keep as much of the meat clean and as free from debris as possible. Now, I don't know if you can see this on the cameras, but I'm cutting that diaphragm. You can see that cut diaphragm, and I cut it back all the way around to the base. Okay. Now then, I'm going to reach up inside You see this cut I've made along the rib cage. I'm going to reach up inside, and I can feel the round tubular esophagus right there. Let's see. Okay, there it is. And I'm going to get as close as I can to the neck and cut that esophagus.
Tell them what's good about a neck shot right under these perfect conditions right now.
Well, the neck shot keeps when your slug enters. If you were to shoot it in the lungs or in the heart area, if your slug enters this cavity, it has a tendency to really mess up the meat. It will, the blood will coagulate. There will be a lot of blood clots. It'll just get real messy. Now,
all these bones will be broken and everything.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now this is very clean, very neat, even though it looks messy here. The inside, there's nothing shot up. There's no meat that's been spoiled. Both shoulders will be good meat for hamburger. And the tenderloin and backstrap on the rear will also be good meat to eat. Okay, now then, I've cut that esophagus. Now I'm just going to do a little bit of trimming here along the top. Okay, now then, I'm going to take that esophagus.
Show them the esophagus. It's cool looking.
Let's see.
Look at that.
You see that? That's where I cut it with my knife. That was the round tube that I was looking for here, and I cut it as far up and close to the base of the neck as I could. Okay, now then I'm going to take that esophagus again and just take a handful of this stuff. Now we've cut the diaphragm on either side, and I'm going to come your direction here.
I'll switch sides.
Now I'm just going to start pulling. Now you see, I'm not really pulling hard.
Hey, that's neat.
I'm just gently, because we've cut that diaphragm.
Wow, cool.
Just very gently pulling all this out.
Beautiful.
And it all comes out together.
Good job.
Now then, we got a little bit, you remember we were cutting on the rectum there, got a little bit more here to trim out, and that'll just pull right out.
Man, that is neat.
Do a little bit of trimming, get as much of that as you can, right down to the base of the tail, and then there it is. And all, now this gut pile, you want to make sure that you don't leave it in an area, because varmints will come. You don't want to leave it in an area because you know varmints will be in where varmints would be dangerous. So you wouldn't want it around your camp if you were out camping. You wouldn't want it around your house if you've got a ranch house. You want to take this and throw it off in the brush somewhere where the varmints can utilize this, and they will eat this up, and it'll be cleaned up. In fact, if we were to come back tomorrow, this would be totally gone. There wouldn't be a trace of it here. Now then, the deer, I want to point out one thing here. This strip of meat is called the tenderloin. It's on either side.
Can they see that?
Either side. Here's one strip, and here's another strip. Some hunters have taken that out accidentally as a part of the guts. Be very, very careful that you don't throw that away. That's the best part of the deer right there, are those two tenderloins. So we're going to throw the gut pile away, but don't throw away those tenderloins. Those are really good. And when we process it later on, we'll show you how to remove those tenderloins.
Okay.
Now the last thing that I'm going to do for field dressing it before I take it back to camp is I'm going to take it and just let the blood run out of it. Just like that. And then we've got a little jug of water there. It's good when you get back to base camp to take a hose and do this, but a jug is a great idea. Just take it, and sometimes if you have a second person to help, kind of hold it up a little bit so that the water will just wash out the inside there. And you just want to get the majority of the blood and the blood clots and coagulation out of the deer, just like that. So now you can see the inside is basically pretty clean, and it's ready to take back to base camp and process.
Thank you, Richard, for helping us. That's been great. I hope you've enjoyed that and learned some real pioneer living. And the boys can help Father hold those legs back just like I was helping Richard, and they get right in there and become a part of that experience. God bless you, and thanks. Let's now head over to Headwaters Ranch just outside of Fredericksburg, Texas, and meet my young friend Samuel Turley, an assistant who will help me to field dress an animal in a more controlled environment. Hi, Samuel.
Hello, Little Bear.
I'm glad you're here today. I'm going to show you how to take some tools of the trade, and we're going to take an axis deer and we're going to skin it. So some of these tools are skinning tools. So let me show you how they work. And this is my box. I think in every situation, you want to have yourself a little box always ready so that when you want to go to do your work, it's like a mechanic has his toolbox. This is my toolbox for skinning. Let me go through some of the things for you to show you so that you can maybe someday do your own deer. Now I take a rag. I always keep a rag with me, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. So I'm putting that around my belt. And then the first things I like is safety. I'm going to do a little safety teaching here. Now, avid skinners, people who do skinning all the time or gutting a deer, use their hands, and I've done both, but over the years I've cut myself so much that I got smart, and I went and bought a pair of gloves that just fit on your hands like this, and they're reversible. You can wear them, I mean, they're either left hand or right hand. Just switch the gloves around and feel those little bumps on there. What's it feel like?
Rubber, hard rubber.
Yeah, rubber. So what's neat about that is that you can take a knife if you're reaching in, and you can just basically take a knife and do that, and it won't cut you, which is really nice. And that's really great because when you're in the cavity of the animal, as I'll show you in just a little while, it's very easy to get cut. Now, what happens is when you go to gut and bone, you go to reach in, and you don't really need this hand very much. If you're right-handed, why wouldn't you need a glove on your right hand? What are you usually holding in this hand if you're right-handed?
A knife.
The knife, right. So if you've got your knife on that hand, because I'm so busy cutting, I don't have to have it. So what hand would you put your glove on?
The left.
The left hand. And if you're left-handed, you do the other way around. So I'm going to go ahead and put my glove right on right now, and we're going to go from there, and then I'll show you some of the knives that we have that we're going to be using. Now I have a whole bunch of knives in here. First thing I want to show you is I want to show you the different type of knives. We have a knife that is, see this curve? This is called a skinning knife, and this knife was used back in 1800s. The Green River skinning knife has been around for over 150 years, and the mountain men used to use this knife. This is the main knife that they use. The reason why the curve is on there is so that when you follow the belly of the animal, the rib cage as it's hanging, it curves real nice around there. I don't particularly like the Green River skinning knife. Now remember, knives are an option to the person who's using them. It doesn't really, it's not that one's better than the other, it's what your personal taste is. I don't particularly like the Green River skinning knife. Some people, and I have some dear friends that use just pocket knives. They just take a standard pocket knife and they just use an ordinary blade. Anything will do the job, but some tools or some knives are better than others. I call these knives tools because that's what they are. They're like tools that do the job. My favorite thing to do is I like to use this type of a knife. It's right over here. This is a fish filleting knife. And this is primarily for fish. You know, when you take a fish, you lay it down, you fillet it you need a real thin, sharp knife to peel the hide off or the scales off of the meat. Well, for deer, this is so incredible. You know why I like it, Samuel? Because it's very thin, and you can put a sharp edge on it. Now, let me tell you about safety, about edges. Oftentimes when I travel, I'll have children take the knife, and they'll say, "Little Bear, is this sharp?" And before I even say yes or no, they'll take, and I'll just show for example, I'll turn the knife upside down because it's not sharp on the back. They'll take their finger before I even say yes or no, and they'll start running their finger down the blade. You don't do that, do you, Sam? Show them what you're supposed to do to find out if the knife is sharp.
You feel it the sideways, not up along this way.
Right.
Sideways, and you won't cut yourself.
Right, and that's a real good way to tell. So Little Bear knows this knife's very sharp because I already sharpened it. Now, talking about sharpening, I'm going to show you one of my favorite kind of sharpeners. There's two main sharpeners. This is called a file, and you basically just take a file and you go like this on your knife, and you'll see butchers oftentimes do this one, and this is a very common one for butchers. This will put a real sharp edge on a knife, but they made it simpler by designing a tool that is pre-cut with two V notches with sharp edges on those pieces of steel. It's just kind of like having two of these setting, one this way and one setting this way. And then when you take your hand in here, it's very safe and it's protected by this guard. And then you can take your knife and listen. Hear that grinding sound?
Yeah.
That's like getting this and filing, and it puts a very, very sharp edge on that blade. Feel that? Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
And I really like this. You'll see by using a fish filleting knife that when it goes to boning, you can follow the bone really well. It follows the animal bone. When we get into that, I'll show how that works to you real well. One last thing I want to show you is this can work in different ways. You can use a saw for the hock of the animal, for the legs, and we actually saw the legs off, and you can use a kind of some people use clippers, like pruning shears, and they'll just clip the animal, and other people use like a hacksaw. But you'll need a saw, you need a sharpening blade, and you'll need a knife to do your skinning. Those are the main tools. And then there's one other tool here that I thought was kind of neat. See this one right here? This is a gutting knife with a gutting hook. This hook is very important because this hook allows you to pull up the animal without ripping the stomach. Right. The stomach has a real horrible smell. You can do it both ways, and I've done it both ways. And sometimes the gutting hook's not available. You can do it just as well with both ways. And I'm going to kind of show you both ways how you can do it, but I'll show you the merits of having a gutting hook. So one of the tools I have is a gutting hook. So let's go down here now, and I'll show you the next thing that we're going to do.
Okay.
A little while ago, Richard Welch and I, as you saw, field gutted a deer in the field, laid open the belly, gutted it out, threw the guts out into the field, and that's the ideal situation if you're in the field and you're not close to a ranch. If you're close to a ranch, you're going to want to make sure that you're gutting inside of a location like this. It's in a barn, it's much more ideal. You've got water at your disposal. It's my favorite way to gut. As much as gutting I've done gutting probably 70 times now over the years, and so I prefer it in here. But field gutting is important. Let me tell you why. If you're in a place where you can't get to a barn or can't get to a location to remove the insides of the animal quickly, it will taint and ruin the meat. So you've got to gut generally within 30 minutes. You should be gutting 30 minutes to an hour. At the max, you should be gutting your deer. The longer you wait, the more chance you have to taint the meat. Tainting is, it adds a flavor to the meat it's hard to get rid of. And then your wife or females usually don't like that taste. And this is what usually turns people off from eating wild game meat, because they usually say it tastes too strong, I don't like it. And that's usually because somebody didn't treat their deer very well. And this is why this series is very important for you, because you can learn how to gut and how to do this for yourself and not have to wait for somebody to do it for you. Because a lot of hunters will shoot the deer. It's easy to shoot the deer, but it's very hard in some cases for people to gut it. They don't know how to do that. So by the time they take it back to a location where someone knows how to gut it, it's been in there for so long. So let's go, Samuel, and the first thing I do is I come over here, I take my knife out, and I go to the rear leg, and I'm going to make an incision on the rear foot like this. See, make a cut. And then, you can do that too. Why don't you use my knife instead of that one, and just come over here, and right here, I'll hold it up for you, and stick it right in there. Turn it the other way, like that, yeah, because you're going to go up. Ready? Push it, poke it in. Now cut up just a ways, keep cutting, that's it. And that's good enough, because that little hole is what we're going to hang the deer on. And if you do this in the woods, you can do this on a tree with a hook, a triangular hook. It's called a gutting hook, and you can buy those at like sporting goods stores, and you can do it on a tree. But we're going to do it here in this gutting barn. It'll be much easier. Rick Huber's here, my dear friend. Rick's going to help me. Samuel, this is very heavy. If you're a young boy and you're hunting, you're going to have problems unless your dad's with you. So Rick, come over here. We're going to grab you're going to grab a leg, I'm going to grab a leg, and we're going to put this on. See if we have the strength to do it. 1, 2, 3, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rick. Obviously, when you're working with gutting, you don't want to put on your Sunday clothes, because you're going to get all bloody. You're going to become a bloody mess. That's where you get the expression, this is just a bloody mess. And this is why a lot of people don't like to shoot animals. They like to go to the store and buy them because it's all perfectly nice, clean, and normal. But the health and the health from the deer with no hormones and fat injections, shots, and all these kind of things that they do in processed beef, it's much better than these kind of animals because they're just all natural. So now we'll go into the gutting part. That really makes a bloody mess. Samuel, stand over on that side. When you're hunting, just a word to the wise, remember if this is the doe, whether it's a doe or a buck, you've got to tag it, because this is a private ranch, the Headwaters Ranch, where they have paid hunters come and hunt. You can hunt what's called an exotic. This spot on this animal, this axis deer, it's the hide, is an axis hide. This axis deer is because it's on a private ranch, can be shot anytime year-round, and I don't have to tag it. But if this is your regular hunting season, this deer would have a tag right here on its head, and I would tag it, and that way you wouldn't get in trouble with the game warden. So you always want to tag your animals. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the head off to make it a lot easier. I cut from the neck. I'm cutting through the esophagus, Samuel. Okay. Now, we'll find that this is much easier. We'll do the same thing. In fact, I'll put the head in here for convenience. Let's put this there. And that fits much better. You know what we'll do too, Samuel? This is a good time to do this. Let's take this saw. I want to show you something really neat. Hold that leg for me. I'm going to cut right here. Let's see where I want to keep that. I want to keep. See, yeah, okay, good. Hold it right there. Cut at the first joint. You can use a hacksaw and or a meat cutting saw to do that, or as I said, the loppers that we can use would work.
Do we have any loppers here?
Well, there's some loppers. This isn't my ranch, and so the loppers they have here are really not very good. And let's go ahead and cut this one off. Let's have two of them. Just throw it one on the ground for a minute. And ready? Loppers goes really fast. You just like big pruning shears. Pull it out while I cut. There you go. Now, get those. I want to show you something. Get one of them. This is one of these days I'm going to do Frontier Skills with Little Bear and show you how you can take deer feet like this and make a rack. What you do is you go home with your fresh kill, and I might as well show you the beginnings of this because I must utilize this time, and you fold the deer up like this, and it's soft right now because rigor mortis hasn't set in. Rigor mortis would be a nice term for you younger students listening to look up and do a little study, scientific study or medical study in the word rigor mortis. Rigor mortis would stiffen it up. If you just leave it like this, about 2 days from now, it'll be so stiff you can't use it in the way that I want to teach you. But if you leave it like this, and then you put it like against a wall, and you put the back with a brick, and you block it like this, in about a week or two, when you take the brick off and take it from the wall, it won't fall off. It'll stay this way. Then you can take a piece of wood. Rick, hand me that piece of wood just for fun, that 2x4. You can take a piece of wood. Let's just pretend that we're going to show you. Sam, you hold that up for me. Let's hold it the other way so that we can see the angle better. You can trace. After you're going to make another cut. Hold this up on this side, Samuel, for me. You're going to cut another cut after the rigor mortis sets in. You're going to cut another cut around here, and that's going to make it a nice oval shape. And then you're going to put the paw into, or the leg into the board that you've pre-cut with a jigsaw. And then they would stand up. So basically it would look like this. Let's put it on top and pretend it's drilled in the whole yours up. And you can use it for a gun rack, for a coat rack, or a hat rack. And you can do a nice carving design with a nice piece of wood. So anyway, that's just a little fun thing to show you what you can do with the parts of the animal. Now, Indians used everything on an animal. Nothing was wasted. The feet were used for what I just described for some form or another. Hides, of course, were used. And all those processes were used. Okay, Samuel, let's go over here and show how we do the gutting. The first thing I like to do is start at the back and make my first puncture. Right there. See that? Okay, now, I don't want to go too deep because below that is the stomach and it will smell really bad. So for now, I get my basic incision there. But I also come over here, and these hooks, if you can, you want to spread them. It'd be nice to have a piece of wood right here and spread this out and give us a little better fat. In fact, what I'll do is I'm going to go, Sam, I'll be right back. I'm going to go and try to figure out a rig so I can set this up and show the best way to spread it. Let's see. Okay, there. Get this like that. Now the Y-bar is very handy. I prefer the Y-bar when I skin my deer. These meat hooks, they bring the legs too close together, and it's very awkward. You need it to spread. I'll show you why as we go into the skinning process and gutting process. But now with a Y hook in here, it's nice and wide. If you're in the field, you would take a piece of wood, like a tree branch, and you'd spread it with a tree branch if you're by yourself. If you have a helper like Samuel and we were on the ground, Samuel could be holding the legs apart while Daddy is pulling a gutting, so it'll be a good teamwork. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do, I already did my initial incision. I'm going to come back here, and let me get my right position here, Samuel. And I'm going to cut right here. There's nothing to worry about at the back. At the back, there's no bags of smelly guts, stomach things. So we're just going to go like that and cut back through the back and stop there. And then you come around this side and you're going to cut to the anus. And then I take this knife and we'll keep the gutting knife. We won't need it right now just yet. I'll show you when. I cut around the anus hole like this. This is kind of tricky. And, you know, I just got to tell you right up front, there's no smell to this. Not like dog poop that smells horrible. Deer is like rabbit. It's just like little pellets, and there's no smell to them, which makes it very nice. And so you can see in the cavity the pellets, the deer pellet, just regular pellet, and just cut all the way down there in a circle. It's kind of neat how that works. It's hard for you to see, Samuel, but the camera angle is going to show all this a lot better, and I'll let you see in just a minute. When you go down the other side, I'll show you what we just did on the lower level from the front side. But Little Bear's just cutting all the way around that anus hole, and it's coming out. Now I'm going to drop it in, and then I come over here. We cut this, make sure it's all completely cleared. This part is now starting to open up, but we won't fool about with this part just yet. We'll do this in just a little while. But now we got to split. We want to split the back. So I'm going to take a saw, and I'm going to cut the tailbone. And what that does, it'll actually open the deer a little more. So it spreads it.
Okay.
And then Little Bear can cut the tailbone off.
Axes have pretty tails.
Wait till I show you this. I take my knife, cut this off here, and you got the tail. See, kind of neat.
Axes have pretty tails.
Yeah, some people collect the tails and they skin them to do the tails. Whenever you do an animal like a raccoon or a deer, you got to take the bone out. So you have to cut up the tail like this, split the tail. I'm not going to do the whole thing, I'll just show you briefly. And then you just peel back, and this bone has to be cut out. Very time consuming. Take you 30 minutes alone just to peel the bone out of that tail. Go all the way to the tip. Be careful when you get to the tip, the bone gets smaller like a soda straw. Don't pull. The tendency will be to pull the bone off the tail. Whenever you do that, you'll lose the tip of your tail. Cut all the way to the very end of the tail. Peel the bone all the way around with your knife. Peel carefully off. Work ever so slowly as you're cutting, and you'll end up having a really beautiful tail to work with. Now, Samuel, remember that gutting knife we had earlier? Do you have that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is the trick I wanted to show you with a gutting blade. This little hook, when you put this hook in here, because it's the right depth between the edge and the cutter, it doesn't pop. Technically, it shouldn't be popping the stomach. So watch this. See how nice that is? Just perfect. Now, I take my two fingers right here, Samuel, at the back, and I use them as a guide. See, now here's the stomach. This is the part you really don't want to pop. Now if you're in here with a knife going like this, you're going to pop this bag, and it has a stench. It's tolerable. I've popped hundreds of them. I mean, not hundreds, but literally many of them. So it's not the end of the world if you do. But it's so nice with this knife because you can just follow the guide of the animal, because it's just a natural flow. It cuts really well. And the stomach will fall out. Oops, I cut it a little bit there. See that? That's a little bit, that's the part. But fortunately, did it low enough down. That's not so much problem. Here, let's put this down here for just a minute. Take this and cut a little bit further down. Okay. This is the sternum, and I'm going to cut the sternum. There's a little spot in the sternum that you have to find, and once you get in that little track, it's like two bones together, and you want to find the two places where they wedge together. There's a little cartilage, and it tends to go down a little better. Okay, trash can's kind of in my way right now. You're going, a little bit, why do you need the trash can? You'll see why in a minute. See how that popped open?
Yes.
Now, the reason why I want the trash can is because I can just take the insides and start dropping them out. Now I take my knife. Remember I told you how the skinning glove was important?
Right.
That this is where it's important. Now, oh, by the way, I wanted to also show you the anus. What happens, it falls out. That little part that I cut out back there, this is urine. If I pop this, urine will fall out. So it's all together here. And what I'm going to do is just keep that circular. Remember how I went around in a circular motion? Exactly. I'm going to keep going around in a circular motion, cutting like this, cutting this loose. Of course, if it's a male deer, you're going to have the testicles. Yeah. The little testicles will be there. You can cut those off. This is a female. And so we're just going to cut like that. See how that's coming off? Now, once I have that, I can just, at this point, I can just keep letting it hang loose into the barrel area. And watch what Little Bear's doing. I'm reaching in with my knife, cutting loose. Look, peek in there, Samuel. See? Cutting loose. See all the guts and things are falling out? Now, field dressing. Remember when we did field dressing? Right. When I did field dressing earlier, the deer was on the ground and it just pours out. In this level, it's like gravity. It's coming down, and so it makes it a lot easier with you than when you're out field dressing. Field dressing is oh yeah, that's good. Let's look at this liver. Some people like to eat the liver. I'll just cut a piece off. That's liver. You can throw this in a frying pan and put a little flour and bacon. Oh, delicious if you like liver. I'll pass it up. And now we got here. I'm reaching in. Remember those gloves I have, how they're important? Now with my glove, I don't have to worry about cutting my finger. The only thing you have to be careful, it will pierce you. And I've been stuck before, but it won't cut you, and that's the nice thing. Now, this deer was shot right here. You see the bullet hole. Show them the bullet hole, Samuel.
Right here.
Yeah. And then I like to shoot neck shots because in the neck you don't have all this bloody mess. When the bullet goes in the side and comes out the other, it punctures the lungs, it punctures the heart, and so you end up with a bloody cavity. When you do a neck shot, you don't end up with a lot of blood. It's a lot cleaner to skin. But Richard shot this Axis deer, and I'm very happy that he did. So I'm thankful for wherever it was shot. And I'm cutting now. Now I'm cutting away. What I'm doing down here, Samuel, is you can't see, but I'm just feeling. I'm cutting the esophagus loose, and so all the stuff finally just comes out. Just like this last bit's right there. Look at that. All this last bit. Look at that. Oh, it's all in the barrel. Just fell in the barrel.
Wow.
And then now what we'll do, Samuel, let's take the barrel out. Put my knife up. Like this. Okay. Pull the barrel out of the way. And we've got this like this. I don't want to use my real sharp knife because it ruins the blade if I do hard stuff with it. So I use a crummy knife, to get that open there. There we go. Bloody mess, see? Yeah. Next thing we want to do is I'm going to go wash up. I'll be right back. We'll wash up, and then we're going to start peeling the hide off, and I'm going to show you how to do the skinning part of it. So I'll be right back and show you how to do that. There. Now, washing up is very critical because it keeps your animal from getting stained with all kinds of smelly stuff. I like to wash up quite often. All right. Now, washing is, to me, very critical. I'm very particular. I believe by washing not only the animal but my hands on a regular basis, I keep any smell that might come from the guts of the animal from getting onto the meat, which makes the meat taste bad. So that's just my kind of craziness, and I think it's very important to keep clean. So another important thing to do is you want to keep your knife sharp, and so I spend time sharpening my knife quite a bit. I spend time cleaning all my tools. I wash my tools all the time in water, keep my tools washed. Also, you want to, when you field dress and you're out in the field, this is what you can't do, and this is where I like to dress in a ranch house kind of situation because you can do it a lot better. So I'm going to take the hose and I'm going to hose off the cavity where we just gutted. So we'll turn that water on and we'll hose this off here. And just keep. I might do this 2 or 3 times. And just keeping clean, always washing, keeping that done. If I see any place where there's been any, remember how I punctured when I was cutting? I punctured the part of the esophagus and it spilt out. I make sure to wash all that off because that will also cause smell to the meat. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to begin skinning. What you've seen so far is 2 types of dressing. You've seen field dressing or field gutting out in the field. Now you've seen controlled gutting in a nice setting like a barn or a ranch house where there's water. Now we're going to do skinning. So this will be how to take the hide off the animal. This is what you would call more of a big game animal. Deer, bear, elk, and forward are all considered big game. The process that I just went through works for elk, works for deer, works for bear. This is called the gutting process, and you have to do it on all the fur-bearing animals that you shoot on the field. Also, in my case, in some people's cases, don't be alarmed by it. There tends to be, and it can be, an allergic reaction to the hair. When I grab that deer and stick it up on the hook, I got fur and hair in my nose. It's just like cat hair. It develops into an allergy. You'll get an itchy nose. You'll get your eyes will water, and your eyes might swell. It's not the end of the world. It'll go away after a while. I'll take a shower, get cleaned up, and I'll be okay. But right now my voice is a little bit raspy. It's all connected to that. It's not like you have to go to the doctor and there's something wrong with you. I would kind of throw that in there. Some people don't have the reaction to it, but it's not uncommon to get a reaction to working as close as you are here with so much fur around you. So now I'm going to go into another segment. What I like to show you is how to actually take the fur off the animal. The gutting and all that can be done with rabbits and everything. So what I've just taught you, you can use for a lot of almost all fur-bearing animals. The skinning I'm going to teach you now, you can use the same. You can use it for rabbits, for squirrels, for deer, for elk, for bear. So this process of skinning is going to be standalone in itself, and it'll teach you the basics to skinning. And it's very enjoyable because you can use the hide for many different things. Let me go right into the process. Samuel, what I'm going to do now is you won't need your knife for now. You're just going to watch. So I want to show you what to do. What we're going to do here is I start at the back leg. You don't want to cut too deep. You want to just cut down. Since I have a real nice sharp knife, you want to just cut just the surface so you get that hide separated from the skin and the tissue. And I'm going around in a circle. See how it's separating?
Yeah.
And then I'll come over here. Now, you can see Little Bear's knife has hair in it. Again, I'm real meticulous. I keep my knife clean, and this is the part that if you're going to have an allergy reaction, you can see all that hair flying through the air, and those little fibers can affect you. And they've always affected me. Even since I was a little boy, Are you allergic to anything, Samuel?
Not to hair, only to ant bites and things.
Ant bites and things, yeah. Everybody's got some kind of allergies, bee stings or something. Unfortunately, mine is fur, and I love fur so much. It's like too bad for me. Now, Samuel, I cut both, right? This is neat. You take the knife, you go right up here, the surface, just along the surface. In fact, you can see the blade. See the blade there?
Yeah.
And you just push up like that and catch up to there. And you can try that over here. Take the knife here and just start right here. Like that. Stay underneath the skin if you can. And just work your way up to there. That's it. Very good. Excellent. Yes. Now, you just start cutting. You grab and cut. Oh, one other thing that's really neat. If you're doing what I'm about to do with a deer that's been dead for over an hour or 2 hours, there's enough rigor mortis has set in that the hide clings to the body and it's hard to pull the hide off. So I like to do my skinning very quickly because if you wait a long time, it won't come off. And this makes it so much easier when it's nice and warm and it comes off pretty well. Now, I'm not sure, I haven't shot too many axis deer, so every animal has its own peculiarities, so I'm not sure how this is going to work. And if this hide comes off as easy as deer, some animal hide sticks, like a raccoon is a horrible hide to skin. It just doesn't want to come off the animal. And so we're going to find out how axis deer work.
Now, can I do that on the same side over here?
If you want to, take your knife. Do you have a knife that you want to work with?
Yeah.
Okay, take your knife. That's probably not a good knife. I'd probably take that gutting knife that we used.
Okay.
And you can start fooling around there a little bit and see what happens. And I'll work on this side. Usually if you have two people, like a wife or a husband or a friend that wants to work together with you, you can work, or a son, you can work with just peeling. That's it, just peel. And then as you peel, you want to follow. You want to grab it like that and just follow like that, yeah, and cut. Now the deer's a little high for Samuel right now. If this was another setting, I would probably put the deer a little lower because it's harder when you're this high off the ground. I like them when they're down close to the ground. That's good, Sam. Just keep cutting away, peeling and cutting. Goes much faster. Of course, butchers who do this every single day for a living can have this hide off in just a second or two. Look at that. See how that peels away, Samuel?
Right.
Cool. Now here's another why I don't like a shot in the chest. All this meat now is wasted. And not only that, sometimes you waste a shoulder. I'll show you what the shoulder is as we keep skinning. In just a little bit when we get down to the front shoulders, I'll show you that. But for now, I want to keep working around the back.
Reach that part up.
How you doing, Samuel?
Can you? I can't.
It's hard because you're so short. So let me do this part because it's hard for you. When we get down a little lower, you'll be able to help me again.
Okay.
It's coming out pretty good. Axis steers is better than I thought it might have been. I noticed when I was cutting through the hide a little while ago, like cutting the neck off,
Yes.
I noticed the hide's a little thicker than deer hide for some reason.
That too.
And so my knife wasn't cutting through as easy. And that's why when we're sawing, it's not coming off as easy. So that means this hide is a little thicker than deer hide. Which makes a nice taxidermy hide. How old are you now, Samuel?
I'm 11. I'll be 12 in May 30th, and it's.
That's great. You're learning some great skills for your age because a lot of boys your age would love to do what you're doing. Of course, a lot of young boys your age like to skateboard and rollerblade and snowboard.
I'm not into that stuff.
Yeah, you're more of a pioneer boy, aren't you?
Exactly.
I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna cut. Remember how we went up, Samuel? How we went up before like that?
Right.
Well, since we already cut these off earlier, and this is what I like to do at the very beginning, I don't have to fool with it now. If we had the head on right now and the feet, it'd be a nuisance. So all I have to do, Samuel, is take my knife and just go down. If you're gonna make a pelt out of your hide, don't cut the outside. It's ugly. You want to cut it always on the inside. So that's why Little Bear's working around this side. So I can show you like that. Cutting the hide like that, see?
Yeah.
There. Very good. Now come over here and cut this one. Pretty hard hanging like this. Some people like to take the hide and do it on the table. Come over here on this side so you can see what I'm doing, Samuel, over here. And then peek down, see what I'm doing. I'm reaching in, and I'm going just like we did before. Okay, now, the reason why I want to do this, when we go back, let's go back and do the taco. Start rolling yours up. Okay, roll it like a taco. Very good. Keep rolling till you can't go any further. Okay, ready? Watch this. You grab it really hard. When I say 3, what are you going to do?
Pull.
Pull where?
Down.
Up or down?
Down.
Down. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, pull. Oh, ready? Roll it more. Roll like a taco. Okay, ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Now we can't go any further. Now we have to do our cut it. So you take your knife and start cutting the hide from the skin.
Okay.
And I'll cut over here. We'll work together. It's good to have a helper like you because it's really much faster. Now when you're watching this, viewers, you're learning how to skin any animal. Of course, deer are a little more than rabbits, obviously. I can do a rabbit in about 5 minutes. It's taking me a lot longer, but the same principle. And you just cut and pull, cut and pull. And it's always a little tricky around the neck, so don't get upset with yourself because it's a little bit harder to cut around here. Although this one's coming out pretty good. That's pretty good. How you doing, Samuel?
Pretty good.
I beat you. Ha 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 ha. Shows you who's got experience. Go over here to the other side. Okay, ready? Now, watch this. Just to save some time. See how I'm doing this, Samuel?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't do.
It's hard. This part's a little tricky. Now, I pull and cut around the legs. Like this, pull and cut. Now pull over here, Samuel. See? It's almost off. Did you keep the hides that you did? Or what'd you guys do with the hides you tanned?
Well, yeah, we kept them. Yeah.
What do you have in your bedroom?
Well, actually, they're in our storage shed right now because we're waiting to move into our new house.
And then you're gonna put them in your bedroom, huh?
Yeah.
It's really neat when you step off the bed at night.
You
You step
on
on a fur. It's cool. Okay, we're all done. I just cut this last one here, and I'll show everybody what I have. Here for them to watch. Beautiful hide. Let's stretch this hide out and show it to them. Come over here, grab that end, Samuel. Look at that beautiful hide. Whoa, cool. Now, this is the part I can just cut this to show them where the neck was. There. And now we got the hide like that. Now, in another segment, I'll show you what to do with the hide like that. But for now, that's another segment. Let's get quickly into boning. So we've done several things: field dressing, or what's another word for dressing?
Skinny.
No, gutting.
Gutting.
Okay, field dressing is you take the guts out, or field gutting. Then we came in here and we call this barn gutting. Then we took the hide off, and that's called what? When you pull the hide off?
Skinny.
Skinning. Then we did the skinning. So we've done gutting and skinning. Now we're going to do boning. And boning is really, this is the part that is very fruitful because this animal that gave up his life that the Lord provided, you can actually eat and save money. So now we're going to do it into boning. Now, but before I bone, what do you think Little Bear likes to do? What's Little Bear's pet peeve to do with his hands? Wash. So I'm going to go wash my hands, wash my gloves, wash my knives, and then we're going to start the boning process. So let's go over here and do that. Now that we've completed the gutting and skinning process, it's time to wash up the tools and prepare for boning the deer. Boning means removing the meat from the deer to prepare it for the freezer. Come here, Samuel. Welcome back. Give me your hand. All right. We're going to show you today how to bone a deer, spend time taking the meat off, putting it in the cooler, and I'll give you some tidbit information on how to process the meat and what you can do with certain cuts of the meat. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to hose off the animal. Make sure I always get this done. What I'm going to do, the reason why is you can't maybe see it, but there's little hair all through this hide. Remember I told you in another episode that hair on the deer will make the deer taste bad, as well as guts and smelly punctured things. And so I'm constantly washing my deer. There's hair all over this thing. Just washing this off. Like that, washing the hair down, both sides. And once I get all that done, because this is the very critical part. This is the part that's going to determine whether your wife says, honey, I really don't appreciate you bringing me wild game. As opposed to saying, I really like it, I'll have it again. It's how you take care of it. Okay, now, take our knife, Samuel, get your knife. Trim a little bit. Let's do some trimming. Okay. Trimming takes the fat off the animal. See this ugly fat stuff? You want to cut that off and just throw it away. So you just throw it on the floor for now. I usually have a barrel with me. And then just anytime you see something fat and white and ugly, you don't want that. You want to trim. It's called trimming. So you want to trim as much of that off. And here's an ugly little part there. Cut that off. Okay, now Samuel, what we can do is we can cut this loose here. See? Fajita meat. Okay? With the flank. And so cut just like that. And start pulling it. Oh, look, Little Bear found some fat. I don't like fat. It's not healthy. So we just throw that down like that, and then just start cutting alongside. Now you're going to follow the rib cage. Look at the rib. That's the ribs, right? Mm-hmm. So follow the rib cage like that. Exactly. Just follow the ribs. Like, see, very good. You're doing a good job. Like that. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And you can have breakfast steaks with this. Mm. Very good. Yes. Fresh, no fat, healthy. Very good. No now, hormones. Samuel, no hormones, yeah. Now, Samuel, throw it in the cooler. I always take a cooler with me. And now we've got this really open. You can see that a lot easier for a view. Let's take anything white, trim it off. Let's trim off any ugly white stuff. Okay, now watch this. This here is the sirloin. Have you ever heard of eating a sirloin steak? Sirloin steak. This is sirloin, beautiful. Watch, you can grab that. Watch how Little Bear does. Let me show you first how I do that. Grab it like that. Very, very tender meat. Look at that. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. Just comes off. Nice, nice sirloin.
Makes me hungry.
Ooh, wonderful. Look at that. Now see if you can do that. That's it. Pinch it. Go behind it. That's it. That's it. And pull it as you're doing that. Very good. You see, even young people can learn this. Did you know that pioneers years ago, the dads didn't do this back in 1880. They're busy doing other important things around the home. The sons did the gutting, the skinning, and prepared all the meat for the family. In fact, not only the sons, the daughters did that. So that was in the Indian tribes. The women did all this. The men did a more heavy-duty, skillful chores. The women and children did what Samuel's doing. So there's nothing wrong with children learning these things. It's a very important part of life. Think of how many wild animals Adam and Eve had to skin and take care of and provide food for their family. So now that's done. Now Samuel, I don't particularly like ribs on a deer, but if you were hungry, you could keep that. We'll talk about the rib cage later. Let's go up to, have you ever had hamburger? Mm-hmm. What's your favorite food?
Fettuccine carbonara with...
Fettuccine.
And pizza with hamburger.
And pieces of meat in there, huh? Good. Well, you're very, very discerning, very connoisseur. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here, and I'm going to show you hamburger, where hamburger comes in. Cut along here. Cut all the way to the bone. Keep going back till your knife stops.
No, it's not.
Okay, is it good? There, that's good. Now, this area here, back here is called the ham quarters. It's the deer's rear end, basically, is a ham quarter. So watch this. This is so neat. There's so much meat here. I usually here's a little fat. What does the Little Bear do with the fat?
Throw it away.
What's it called? Trimming.
Trimming.
Okay, now, take this, and you just go up here and find a little joint. You find a little bone. Feel here. Feel it with your finger. Feel that bone. Go below the bone, and cut in, just all the way in, to where your blade stops. You know why it stops? What is it hitting?
A bone.
A bone. Okay.
The
femur? I'm not sure. It could be the femur. That's the main deer bone. Now, then you can just start cutting down like this. See what Little Bear's doing? Mm-hmm. Cutting down along that bone. So cut follow the bone. Let the bone be your guide. You're really supposed to let the Lord be your guide, but in this case, let the bone be your guide. And then, like that. Okay, very good. So you doing okay? Here, cut like this. We'll first go to the bone, like that. And then just start turning your knife sideways and go follow down, like that, yeah. And then you take the side and the tip combination. I'll help you just a bit. While Samuel's doing that, and I'll keep working so we save some time here. See what Little Bear's doing? He's also going around the back side. And if you want, if you want a ham roast, you can be very careful to keep this all together and keep it in a little bit of a. That's okay. Good catch. Throw that. Now, if you ever drop your meat, what do you do, Samuel?
Clean it off.
You can wash it. But watch this, Samuel. Since you got some meat, if you want, hold this for me. I'm going to show them. Hold the meat part, and I'll grab the sinew. Watch the blade. Go like here. Let's put this here for me for now. I'm going to show you something. Watch. Little Bear is particular. No use throwing this in the grinder because you just got a little chew. Have you ever had meat where you're chewing, like bubble gum? It drives you crazy. That's the stuff, the sinew and the fat. So it's because somebody didn't trim it. The butcher did not trim the fat. So Little Bear can kick some of that off. Now Samuel can throw it in the barrel or in the ice cooler. Okay. And I'm going to show them how to make a ham quarter so that they can have like a ham roast. And the problem with ham roast, Samuel, is it takes up so much of your meat that you've eaten like a fourth of your deer just with serving the roast.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with it. And so I don't have a roast. I don't have roast very much because it just eats too much of my meat and the meat's too valuable for me. So there's enough, in a smaller deer, there's enough roast or ham quarter to do like maybe 2 roasts. You know, you don't have to have giant ones. You can make a small one, or if you have a big giant family, you might want to take a big giant roast and cut this in a big roast section. Now, this has got its own little natural flap here. You can see how it's separated. So I could technically take this like this, follow the bone, and this will be like a mini roast.
Okay.
Let me show you. You're just going to be cutting little pieces off here and there.
For the hamburgers.
For the hamburger meat. Now watch this. For those of you viewing me, this is about what you would call a Sunday, maybe a small family roast. And what you would do back at home is you trim all this fat off, which I'm not going to do right now, but you're going to just spend time trimming the fat. Look on the inside how ugly that yellow, yucky, whitish, creamy fat is. So you would trim all this off. Would get trimmed off, but for now we just throw it in there and keep working. Sam's doing little things, I'm doing big thing. There's going to be a big giant roast. We'll have a big roast here in just a second.
I just slipped the glove instead of my finger.
Yep. Did you go right through it?
No.
You would have.
The top part.
Yeah. That's about those gloves. Without the gloves, I have to work a lot slower. With the gloves, I can work really fast. So there's a plate. There's a plate on the tailbone. It looks like a shelf. I follow that plate, and you're going to have the same thing on yours. It's going to be a plate on the opposite side. It's almost like a canyon. It goes between this, between here and there. Remember how we cut this earlier?
Yeah.
Let's see if I went all the way through. Actually, I didn't go all the way through. Let me take the saw. I think I missed a spot. There. Now, there's a plate between your side and my side. So in a little bit, you're going to be doing that. But you just keep cutting away, and I'm going to keep doing my roast,
And I'll keep
following
doing
that
hamburgers.
plate. And I want to show how to get a big roast.
Or
Watch
just get
this.
a whole bunch of deer.
Or get a whole bunch of deer, that's right. Now, look at that big old ham quarter. Whoa, major.
Pretty.
Look at that huge glob of meat.
Oh, that's
What every woman would love to have in her kitchen right now. Oh, this is incredible. Now, what's that ugly stuff there?
fat.
Fat. What do you do with it?
Just trim it.
Trim it. We'll do it later. If some of you want to do this at home, you can hang your deer. You can hang your deer in the woods, because most of the time you shoot your deer in September, October, and November. Depends on what state you're in. And it's cool in the fall. And a lot of people hang their deer, gut it, and hang the deer like 24 hours. And there's even bags you make that will keep the flies and things off of it. They're deer bags, hanging bags. What that does is the meat gets a little bit tougher and tighter. And when it's not so gummy like bubble gum, it's easier to trim because the white gummy stuff gets harder. Then you can take your knife underneath the gummy stuff because it's harder, and you can just pull it off and trim a lot easier. So I find trimming, to be honest with you, I find trimming a little easier after it's been hanging a while. But I don't have the patience or the time sometimes to go back a day or two later to do my trimming. Now, it won't rot if the weather's cold because it'll just stay in cold air. If it's a place like a ranch, like this ranch, Headwaters Ranch has a cooler, they can put the deer in the cooler. So I'm showing you both ways, or explaining both ways to you. Right now the way I'm doing is actually the way you do it quickly, and you don't want to wait any longer. Samuel's cutting some more meat there. While he's doing that, I'll cut over here, save some time.
That's a big,
Good.
piece of meat. Is that another hand coater?
Samuel, this is that plate. I told you about the bone, tailbone plate?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go. Good, nice roast. Now, a lot of times you can take this, take it home. If you are in a situation where you can't hang a deer in your yard because the dogs will get to it or something doesn't work right, you can do what I'm doing, boning it, stick it in the cooler, and then put the pieces of meat in the bottom shelf of your refrigerator for a day, and then take it out and then do your trimming after it cools down, after it's been in the refrigerator before you do your meat. Away. Base camp, you can hang it and cook it. Excuse me. Put it in. And you can get to your animal. Be careful in areas like Alaska where there's grizzly bear, because obviously you're going to have some dangerous situations. If you're camping and you've got a dead carcass hanging by you, it could be perilous for your life. So you have to use some wisdom in every situation. Okay, Samuel, he's cutting away. And while Samuel's doing that, I'm going to cut the hock, some more meat off the leg. That's where the deer jumps, the deer runs. But you know what you can do with this kind of meat? And you say, well, Little Bear, you're throwing it all in the barrel. How will you tell the difference? Well, if you're not experienced, you can just separate it and put it in different bags or different coolers. But all this meat is good for like crock pots, where you want to cook it for longer, softer, slower, and it ends up making the meat more tender. So you'll need to put the muscly stuff in crock pots. Otherwise, if you just put it in a frying pan, if you just put this in the frying pan and started cooking it, it'd be so tough that people wouldn't want to eat over your house anymore. So this is, or your family wouldn't like it. So I'm just cutting here, throwing that in there. Now you can see when I cut here, I don't know if you're noticing that earlier, but this leg involuntarily came down because I cut the sinew, and that tendon dropped the leg down.
And feel how stiff this is now.
Yeah, so I'm going to just, we can do that a little later. That's good enough for now. Now I want to show you another good cut of meat, Samuel. This is called the back strap. What's the first thing you want to do with these really sharp knives, these little filleting knives, is what's all this white stuff called?
Fat.
Fat, and in other words, it's called sinew. And so watch this. I like to take this knife and cut alongside the back. Don't want to go too deep, because if you go too deep, you cut into the red meat. You just want to scrape the sinew. And again, if you didn't do it this way, you can do it later by letting the meat cool down, and it comes off sometimes a little easier. But again, for time's sake, I'm just doing it now. Cut all the way up here.
Oh, look at all that good meat.
Yeah, that's the part. Backstrap. That's what people love deer for, is the backstrap. Now watch this. This is good. This is the backstrap. Take your knife. First, what do you trim off? First, you trim off the what?
The sinew.
The sinew and fat. Okay. Then you go down along the back. Take your knife and then you'll feel what's back there. You feel that?
Backbone, or the ribs.
The ribs.
The
Yeah,
ribs,
that's part of the rib cage. So you follow the rib cage all the way down. Now stop here for just a minute. This is tricky. This has a little bit of the shoulder, and I'm going to trim that back just a bit so you see what I mean. Now, go ahead and just keep cutting away to the neck, a nice straight line from the backbone. Now the neck meat's a little tough too. Why would neck meat be tough? Samuel? Let's throw that, it's got blood on it.
Okay.
Why is neck meat tough?
Because.
What does a deer do with its head all the time? Turns it, right? Just like your leg. So
it's got lots of muscles in it.
It's a muscle. It's very muscle. Now, what do you do with the muscle? Do you remember what I said you do with the muscle? You put it in what kind of pot?
A crock pot.
Crock pot. So the neck meat you use for muscle, for crock pot. So watch this. Now that we went all the way down like this, you go up until your knife hits the rib cage, and watch this carefully. I start it just a bit, like slicing over and over. And remember this sirloin steak where we took our fingers and pinched it earlier?
Yes.
Watch this. See how I'm peeling it away from the rib cage? See? Once you have it like this and start it, watch this. You can just yank and lightly cut, yank, lightly cut, yank, lightly cut, yank, and keep doing that. Pulling, 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 cutting, pulling, cutting, pulling, until finally you get to the end by the neck, and you have a back strap. Now, what you can do with the back strap, look how beautiful that is. I already took the sinew off of it. I got a little bit more here I could trim later.
I'm using the sewing thread.
What you can do with this is you can make steaks by cutting it like this, thick steaks, and sticking it on the barbecuer. And this is a good meat. Or a lot of people will marinate this. They'll put this in a marinade dressing. One of these days I'd like to do a show and show how to do a Frontier Skills cooking thing with meat, and show you different things that you can do with the meat. And then you can make barbecue out of that with a whole piece. Now some people say if you cut it in strips first and cook it, it dries out faster because it's thinner. But if you cook it like this and then serve it at the table, it's a lot more tender. But that's up to you, but you can marinate it. We'll talk about that another segment. So let's do this side, and I'll just, first thing I want to do, try with my knife. It's a little better.
Okay.
Now, here's what I'm going to teach you a secret. Start, instead of just trying to find it, pierce it.
Okay.
Stick it in, see? Then you can follow up. Now, you don't want to follow down. What happens when you follow that way? You cut too much red. But if you follow out like that, you want to stay as close as you can to the white. So you try that here. That's it. Now take that other hand, and try to pinch this underneath it so that you can pull it away for it, like that, exactly. And pull, stay close to the white. That's it. Excellent. That's really good. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Okay, excellent. Cut that off. Throw that away. That's just junk. And then you can just to save time. We won't fool with it, but you could keep doing that. You could do the next pass, like that. You just keep doing pass after pass, pass after pass, pass after pass, and then just start trimming that sinew off there. And I've made string. I tried that one day. I made string out of it.
Oh, really?
So and then you just twist it and make strands and stuff. I've done that. You might want to try that someday. It's a fun thing. Okay, now do what I did before. Cut along the edge. Take my knife, it's better. And do what I told you. Start with here. Take this hand and hold the deer. Okay, go all the way to the top, and start going down. This is called the backbone right here. Okay.
Okay.
This is what like a spinal cord. You ever heard of a spinal cord?
Yeah.
Stay close to the spinal cord.
Okay.
That. Watch. I'll show you. Feel it? Yeah. Just follow the spinal cord. Okay. And then just keep like that. You're getting too far away. There, so always stay close, because you'll ruin some good meat. Okay. Okay, now stop there for now. Go up to the top and cut down. Come over this way, like this. Like this.
Oh, okay.
Like this. Cut it down to the spinal cord till it can't go any further. Now start working. Let me show you for a minute. Let me show you what to do. You're gonna grab this like this. See how?
Okay.
And then let me get you started. Go to the back rib. Let me cut a little fat trim there. Let me get you started because it'll be faster. Okay. And start trimming away. Come over this side like that. Yeah. Let's start trimming away. Very good. Trim and pull, trim and pull. That's it. Trim and pull. That's it. Grab it like that. That's the way I like to grab it, because then you can pull it. Very good. Keep as much red meat as you can. Clip. Okay, good. Pull down. That's it. Keep grabbing, yanking. Very good. Excellent. What's this called?
The backstrap.
Good. Backstrap. Is that a good meat?
Yes.
It's the second best part of the deer. What's the first best? What's the most tender?
This part.
Tenderloin.
The tenderloin.
And then the second part?
Is the
Backstrap. And the third part, hindquarters, hamburger meat.
Or hamburgers. What would you use the backstrap for? Steaks?
Steaks.
Yeah.
Yep. People love backstrap. In fact, if you cook backstrap well, people don't know the difference. It really is funny how people go, I don't like deer meat. If they came over my house and I didn't tell them what I was serving, they would never know they're eating deer meat. if you treat it right. And it's just what it is psychological. They're not used to it. They think it's wild game, it's strange, and but you can't tell the difference. Now some deer, like bucks, when they've been rutting means that they're mating. They're really more. Here, grab this knife. We'll trade. The meat does get a little bit tougher and does sometimes smell when you cook it. It's called tainted. It's a little tainted. That's why I like does. Okay, now there's our back strap. We would trim that back at home. Let's throw that in for now. Watch this. This is so neat. Come over here on this side of me. This is called, and I'll peek over my shoulder here. This is called the shoulder roast. This is the coolest thing you've ever seen. You just cut here. Have you ever heard of a sport injury called a dislocated shoulder?
Yeah.
Well, you know why you can dislocate your shoulder? There's no bone attached to your shoulder or an animal's shoulder. God made the shoulder get dislocated because all it does is swivel. See? So what happens is a dislocated shoulder, watch how easy the shoulder comes off. It's crazy. You just cut, all I'm cutting is meat and muscle. I'm not cutting any bone. Remember how we had to use a hacksaw for everything?
Yeah.
We don't have to use a hacksaw for the shoulder. Watch. Watch that. See? You just all that is skin. Now, this is a good lesson for you all. This deer was shot in the chest, and what they just did is they ruined about 3 pounds of meat because the bullet just fragments and destroys muscle tissue. And so I don't shoot shoulder shots. I shoot neck shots because first of all, the neck is the part that is crummy. It's usually just like stew meat for crock pots, but the shoulder is wonderful meat. So this meat has basically been ruined because of a shoulder shot. What I'll do, and I'll just show you now, I can't take you into the kitchen and show you how to cook this, but I'm going to tell you right now what you would do. You would take this, if this had not been shot, you would take this entire meat and put it in a pot, a big, huge turkey roasting basting pan, and you'd cover it completely over with milk, dressings like salad dressing, ranch dressing, vinegar, all kinds of spices, and you'd marinate it. You'd marinate it overnight. Then in the morning, you throw all the marination out, and then you turn the oven about 250 degrees, stick this entire roast in an oven bag, those kind of big turkey bags, seal the bag up, put a little bit of the moisture from the marination in the bag, and cook it very slow for 4, 5, or 6 hours, like at the temperature of 150 to 200 degrees. Then the meat will just slough off the bone. It just comes off. It's great for taquitos, great for shredded beef tacos, where you take the tortillas and shred it, or just good with mashed potatoes and gravy. It's delicious. And so the roast is a great meat. But when you shoot it in the chest like this, I'm going to basically have to throw this entire roast away. Now, if I wanted to, and I was desperate, I could trim all this red off and have a little bit of meat here, but it's useless. I just threw away a lot of meat, because people don't really realize shooting it in the chest is a waste. All that meat is wasted now. All this bloody meat is useless. Now, this is more fajita meat. Remember, we used the flank.
Yeah.
You could take the rib cage, follow the rib cage, and end up with meat. But look what the bullet did. It ruined even the meat on the rib cage. So there's some more ruined meat. So this deer has basically had it. The neck's ruined. I can't have neck meat because the bullet came in the neck, came in the shoulder and came out the lower part of the neck and ruined a lot of the neck meat. Now, when you shoot it in the neck, you'll usually have some neck meat, because if you shoot high towards the head, you have the lower part of the neck. So there's still some meat, but this one has been ruined. This deer has had it. If you're desperate and you had a dog, you could take it and cook it, barbecue it, and cook it outside, and take some of the meat off and give it to your dog, or just give the carcass if you want to have raw meat. So that's it. Simple boning process. Taking the meat to the grinder. Sometimes you go to a butcher and tell him to grind it the way you want it, like you want hamburger meat. Tell him you want some steak meat. You want to keep your back strap, that real long piece, you want to keep that separate. You want to roll them up, you want to mark on your butcher paper what it is, so that when you open your freezer, you'll remember 6 months from now, oh, that's back strap, and then you can make your meat accordingly. Well, I hope this has been very helpful for you. I want to thank personally the Headwater Ranch, Richard Welch, the manager of the ranch, and if any of you are interested in coming out to hunt here, they have paid hunts out here with all kinds of exotic animals of all shapes and sizes. It's a wonderful place to live. It's a hill country part of Texas, beautiful part of Texas. And I'm thankful for the rancho supplying this deer. And Samuel did a really good job, and you learn very quickly. So of course you've had some experience helping your dad before, and I want to just thank you for being a part of this and helping me out. And so God bless all of you, and I trust this has been very helpful. May I see you again in another episode. Lord bless you. Well, I hope you found this skill useful and will join me in other lost and forgotten frontier skills. So until we meet again, may the good Lord watch between me and thee and guide and guard your paths for His glory.